Illegal migrants in Copthorne have been caught eating the swans, not only in contravention of the law, but also doing something that is incredibly dangerous for reasons that I will define in this video. My goodness me, not only are they after the birds, but they're after the birds. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Next week is going to be a really important time for the United Kingdom. President Donald Trump is visiting. I'm hosting a dinner to welcome Americans to Windsor the night before Donald Trump arrives. That's at Windsor Guildhall, that great historic building said to be designed by Christopher Wren, which has the Royal Collection, or at least part of it, on the walls. You can get the tickets in the link below. Well, it's a little bit depressing, isn't it, that we don't have people coming to the country that understand our cultural norms. I don't think that you're a bad person for not understanding what Britain is all about, but I do think that you're somebody who's not appropriate to be within the United Kingdom. That is the problem that they're having at Copthorne in Surrey. Even the BBC have conceded this. There is a phone-in where somebody called Janine phoned BBC Radio Surrey to say that now there is a lake that used to have swans on it, and now those swans have disappeared. This is something that has happened since asylum seekers have arrived. Now, okay, maybe I'm being a bit clickbaity by saying that the asylum seekers have been caught. Okay, they haven't been actually caught, but there is significant circumstantial evidence, isn't there? These swans have been there for 10,000 years, and then suddenly 2 hotels in Copthorne get converted and all the swans disappear, and you've got people moving to Copthorne from countries where they do eat bushmeat. And it is incredibly dangerous. I mean, the coronavirus was not caused by bushmeat, but I will tell you that Ebola often outbreaks as a result of bushmeat, and that is to say that the meat that we eat is produced in very, very sterile and protected environments with proper veterinary care. If you simply pick up a bird and slaughter it and defeather it yourself, then that is going to potentially put you at significant risk. There are all sorts of things, bird flu being the most obvious example. And so not only are the swans disappearing, but that is a danger to public health in of itself. And of course, you know, when the people that ignore the law and eat bushmeat in Africa and cause the outbreak of Ebola, when they do it, it's not like they take the blame. It's just, hey ho, that's life, that's the way it goes. And also, the other thing I want to tell you about Copthorne, I've never been to it, but since the 2 migrant hotels opened, the house prices have gone down in the area by 10%. Now, you have to understand that Surrey, in house price terms, is worth more than I think Edinburgh and Glasgow combined. So it's a phenomenally wealthy area. So house prices going down by 10% could be 60 or 70,000 pounds in losses, which is a really huge amount of money, even for somebody with quite a pricey property. The point I'm making is that obviously in poorer areas, 10% is a far less large sum numerically. Well, we've always talked, haven't we, about cultural enrichment. This is cultural enrichment. Bushmeat is something that exists in the cultures that we're bringing over, and we've been enriched by that culture. And I think one of the reasons I make that point and say it in that way is because we're constantly being told that culture can be enriched and not denigrated. Mutty magic enriches, doesn't denigrate. Female genital mutilation enriches, it doesn't degenerate. Machete culture, gang violence amongst young people. All of this is cultural enrichment. What I mean to say really is that you are inviting foreign cultures over and your culture will change as a result. When we talk about culture, very often the only thing we ever talk about is curry. But curry is not culture. There is more to the world than that. Things like electoral fraud is part of the culture in the Middle East. You've got things like governmental corruption being a great tradition in Africa, bribery being a tradition in South America, machete attacks being a tradition in Rwanda. All of these traditions will be added to Britain. Eating swans or eating any meat that's available is something that will certainly happen. And my worry is really this. I mean, I hate these people who go on and say, oh, all these migrants are carrying disease and all this sort of thing. I don't really think it's like that. I think that they turn up a bit scraggy. Nothing that a good wash isn't going to hurt, isn't going to resolve. But fundamentally, we have a system of healthcare built up in this country that is not ready for bushmeat to become a problem in the country. We're not ready for unprofessional slaughter. We're not ready for wild animals to be stolen from the trees and from the fields and from the lakes and then eaten. That creates a public health risk, which we don't know where it will lead us to. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Okay, coronavirus wasn't caused by a bat in the Wuhan fish market. However, let's just be clear on one thing. SARS-2, COVID is SARS-2. Anyway, the COVID before the COVID-19 that we're used to was caused by bushmeat, and it was caused by members of the Chinese Communist Party who insist on buying bushmeat in their local markets. Now, is that going to happen in Britain? Similarly, are we going to find a situation like we found the other day more regularly, where there was a restaurant somewhere, Chinese restaurant, somewhere in England, I forget the exact location, that had a 5-star hygiene rating, but they also found dog meat in the freezer. Now, let me tell you something. You go, how can it have a 5-star hygiene rating and also sell dog meat? Because it's not what you think it is. It's not people who are are unhygienic or unclean or dirty or whatever. They're just people who come from a place that eat dog, right? So the reason they're providing dog meat is because that is what the punters or their own family want to eat. Similarly, we are going to see the proliferation of swans, and obviously there is the issue with the ownership of swans. And there's this question about who owns them. Some people say they're owned all by the king. I think personally, the Worshipful Company of Watermen owns some, and then some are owned by the council, and some are owned by British Waterways. It's all a bit of a mishmash, depending on who you talk to. But one thing they're not is they're not allowed to be owned by the public. And for whatever reason, we have maintained that for long term. So if the eating of swans becomes more popular in this country, that could put swans into the status of an endangered species. And the reason I say that is because, the ducks swimming in the lake are not the ducks that you eat at a Chinese restaurant. They're ducks that are specially bred. Because swans cannot be specially bred, whoever it is that's come in who likes to eat swan can only eat it illegally, can only eat it by stealing them from lakes and from rivers. And that is a major problem because, the number of chickens in the world outnumbers the number of humans by a quite significant number. And obviously that's because all of us have chicken more than once in our lifetime. Therefore, you would need the chicken population to outnumber the human population. But if people start eating swans wholesale, then that will lead to this species disappearing. Yet another example of the problems that have come about as a result of uncontrolled immigration. The good people of Copthorne are going absolutely crazy. Can you imagine having your historic swans eaten by people that are now running grooming gangs in your area, and you've lost 10% of your house prices to thank them for it on top of the tax you're paying to keep them there? If you want to come to dinner next week, click the link below. If you want to donate to the Patriot Fund, do that. Until next time, goodbye.